Hoshimi Miyabi is finally coming to Zenless Zone Zero in the 1.4 patch. And let's just say our Void Hunter Fox Siren is absolutely insane. In this video, we're gonna fully break down everything Miyabi has to offer. We'll go over her kit, team synergies, the best way to build her, and more. Sit back, relax, and grab yourself a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and let's do this. First, as a reminder, all of the content in this video is from the creator beta server, so it may be subject to change for her full release. Thank you very much to Hoyoverse for granting early access, and let's dive in. For as absolutely insane as Miyabi is, she's actually still relatively easy to play, but still delivers extremely high DPS. She is of course our Frost attribute anomaly character who is also the chief of Section 6. Since she is our first Frost character, there's a couple of things to go over. The main thing about Frost is that it does stack with other attribute anomalies such as Ice, even though it is still independent. Additionally, since most of Miyabi's attacks will deal Frost damage, she can still trigger anomaly disorders along with any other attribute. You'll get a good grasp of this as we start talking about the skills that she has to offer. Miyabi's kit and core gameplay loop will focus on two important concepts. First is the concept of Fallen Frost points, which can be found under her character picture in these 6 little pips. These Fallen Frost points are important for the biggest and strongest move in the entire game, Shimotsuki Stance. You can accumulate these points in a few different ways. When Miyabi enters the battlefield, she will default to 3 points already. Using an EX special attack will grant 2 points, activating an ultimate grants 3 points, triggering her core passive Frost Burn Break will grant 1 point with a 10-second cooldown, and when you meet Miyabi's additional ability requirement of a support or Section 6 character, any trigger of disorder will grant 2 points of Fallen Frost. We'll talk about her Mindscapes towards the end of the video, but for now just know that Mindscape 2 makes it so she gains 6 points of Fallen Frost upon entering the battlefield, and she will also obtain 1 point when the 5th hit of her basic attack hits an enemy. The second important concept is the Shimotsuki Stance. These will use your accumulated Fallen Frost points in 3 levels of charge. By holding down the basic attack button, you'll activate the stance. 2 points of Fallen Frost will be a level 1 charge, 4 points will be a level 2 charge, and all 6 points will be the level 3 charge that has this beautiful animation. Between these two concepts, we can see why Miyabi does the big damage. This also illustrates the simple yet powerful core loop of Miyabi's gameplay. First, accumulate Fallen Frost points in any of those variety of ways. Then, all you simply do is hold down the basic attack button to activate Shimotsuki Stance for the biggest damage in the game. Now let's break down her actual kit, starting with the core passives. If you like to read, then core passive Searing Cold has you covered. When Miyabi deals any frost damage to the enemy, she applies Ice Fire. When hitting these targets with Ice Fire, Miyabi will increase her frost anomaly buildup rate by 100% of her crit rate, up to a maximum of 80%. In other words, and as you'll see in the build portion of this video, she needs to have 80% crit rate in order to maximize this boost. The rest of this chunk just states that Frost is its own attribute anomaly and can still trigger disorder with any other attributes. Also, by attacking the enemies with Frost Fire, you can eventually apply Frost Bite. This will trigger an event called Frost Burn Break, which deals frost damage equal to 1500% of Miyabi's attack. But that's not all! After this damage, they'll enter another debuff state called Frost Burn. Attacking enemies in this state will grant a 20% anomaly buildup boost to all squad members. Remember also that you'll get 1 point of Fallen Frost for triggering that Frost Burn Break. And I know that was a lot of different terms, so let's simplify it just a little bit. Basically, just keep stacking Frost Anomaly on the enemy through Miyabi's attacks, and this causes massive damage and a big anomaly buildup boost for squad members. As we alluded to earlier, her additional ability Bask in Frost activates when you have a support or a Section 6 character in your team. Basic attack Shimotsuki damage will increase by 60%. When you trigger Disorder, you'll gain those 2 points of Fallen Frost, and your next basic attack Shimotsuki Stance will ignore 30% of the target's ice resistance. Yeah, that's a whole lot of damage. Basic attack Kazahana can unleash up to 5 slashes. The The first 2 are physical damage, the last 3 are frost damage, and you can block enemy attacks with the 5th hit, although that doesn't really seem to come up that much in her general gameplay. We already talked about basic attack Shimotsuki Stance, but as an extra caveat, she is fully invulnerable during the stance. The only thing about her dodge Mizutori is that you can repeatedly press or hold down the button to cover a lot more ground in a pretty stinking cool animation. Her dash attack does physical damage and her dodge counter does frost damage. You'll never really find yourself using her special attack too much, but EX special Hisetsu is much more important. Remember that this will give you 2 points of Fallen Frost, and she's invulnerable while using the skill. A nice little added bonus is that if you have enough energy, you can press the special button again to activate a powerful follow-up attack, which will grant 2 more points of Fallen Frost. When your decibel rating is at the max, aka 3000, you know what time it is. All you gotta do is press Q to activate the most beautiful ultimate, Lingering Snow. Miyabi will unleash powerful slashes in a giant area before unleashing a final move, dealing massive frost damage. Not only will you get your 3 points of Fallen Frost, ice damage will be increased by 30% for 12 seconds. Also remember that the 1.4 patch is going to give us the decibel changes so that every unit gets a chance to use the ultimate. As for skill upgrades, here is the priority you should be taking, starting with core passive and basic attack being the most important. More importantly, let's hop into Miyabi's team building and synergy. Overall, she has a ton of different teams that she can work in and is very budget friendly, even from a free-to-play standpoint. Miyabi excels in personal damage as well as attribute anomaly. This is why she's so flexible and works with so many teams, especially with support and anomaly characters. Fox Thyron's best teammate will of course be Tsukishiro Yanagi. Since Yanagi consistently triggers disorder, Miyabi will consistently be getting her Fallen Frost points and entering the Shimotsuki Stance. Here's a fun little overpowered tip for all of you big damage lovers out there. After you charge up level 3 of the Shimotsuki Stance, you can switch to Yanagi and trigger even more disorders while the beautiful animation is playing. Having these 2 characters turns the game into easy mode and honestly feels like cheating. As an example, throughout the video you've seen different clips of Shiyu Defense 7 with this new boss. My favorite team of Miyabi, Yanagi, and Caesar, or Rina if you so wish, cleared this challenge in literally 45 seconds. It's safe to say that when 1.4 releases, this will be the strongest team in the game by a healthy margin. Whether you use Caesar or Rina, both clear times are approximately the same for Shiyu 7, although using Rina will give up some survivability for a pretty good boost in overall squad damage. If you didn't pull Yanagi, you're still in luck though. Bernice is still a very good anomaly agent to use with Miyabi. Teams that feature Miyabi and Bernice should always be paired with some sort of support. Most commonly this should be Lucy, but I even used a free-to-play team with Nicole that worked out very well. Remember that Bernice specializes in that off-field fire anomaly gameplay, which makes it really easy to trigger those disorder effects that we need for Fallen Frost. Another team I like to use was Miyabi, Lighter, and Lucy. Lighter gives us that significant ice damage bonus, as well as increasing daze duration and lowering enemy ice resistance. Meanwhile, Lucy meets both Miyabi and Lighter's additional abilities and provides a significant attack boost. There's even a really easy free-to-play team to build for Miyabi that does really well. Even if you use 2 A-rank agents, you can still provide significant strong buffs to Miyabi's overall damage. By meeting Miyabi's additional ability with focusing on Sokaku, you can have a pretty flexible 3rd slot depending on who's on your roster. In this way, as long as you have a support in the squad to meet Miyabi's passive, you can even team up with some other anomaly agents. Overall, you can see she has a lot of different teams that she's very good in, but really focus on hitting Miyabi's additional ability for maximum value. But now it is finally time to go over her best build, starting with her W engines. Miyabi's best in slot will be the one made for her, the Hailstorm Shrine. First, it's worth noting that this is the only anomaly engine that has crit rate as the advanced stat, and we already know that she needs 80% in order to hit that maximum boost. Crit damage will increase by 50%, and when using EX special or any squad member triggering attribute anomaly, the equipper's ice damage will increase by 20%, stacking up to 2 times. So basically a 40% ice damage boost. Because this W engine is so good, I would actually highly recommend getting this over Mindscape 1 at first. If you don't pull her S rank engine, you have a couple of different options depending on how you want to build. The first option is if you only want have the crit rate on the advanced stat. If this is the case, you can use Cannon Rotor from the Battle Pass or Ellen's signature Deep Sea Visitor. But here's an important note, you will not get the extra bonuses from those engines since they are attack engines. The problem with the other option is that there's a lot of engines that have anomaly proficiency on them, which Miyabi doesn't really need that much. This doesn't mean that the A rank engines are bad in any way, and if you do have to settle for one, Electro Lip Gloss is your first best option, followed by Roaring Ride and then Weeping Gemini. As for her disk drives, there is a much easier solution. Sadly, we can't pre-farm for her best in slot 4 piece yet, since it is the new one, Branch and Blade Song. Simply put, this gives her an unconditional 46% crit damage boost, as well as a 12% crit rate boost when any squad member applies freeze or triggers shatter. Once again, depending on your substats and your build, your 2-piece can change a little bit. If you need to hit that target 80% crit rate, Woodpecker Electro is your best option. However, if you do have exceedingly good substats, you can consider swapping that for Polar Metal, or even swapping the 4th slot for crit damage instead of crit rate as your main stat. So optimally, slot 4 should be crit rate. Slot 5 should always be ice damage bonus, or you can run attack percent, especially if lighter is in your squad, and slot 6 should always be attack percent. Substats follow about the same pattern. Start with crit rate, then crit damage, followed by attack percent, anomaly proficiency, flat attack, and flat pen. As for our little helper friends the Bangboos, we have a couple of interesting choices. If you have Yanagi in your squad, you should always use Agent Gulliver, the new Bangboo. Past that, I would actually recommend using Butler or another energy restoration Bangboo. You can also get away with using different attribute anomaly Bangboos like Rocket Boo, Plug Boo, etc. depending on what attributes you have. For those of you looking for a little bit extra bite to your Fox Thyron, we've got some OP Mindscapes to discuss. Mindscape 1 gives her a 36% defense ignore on Shimotsuki Stance, as well as an increase to squad anomaly buildup rate by 20% more. Mindscape 2 makes her even more OP by increasing basic attack and dodge counter damage by 30%. It also features that really nice quality of life buff of having 6 points of Fallen Frost when entering the battlefield. And by the way, it increases her crit rate by 15% more. Mindscape 4 boosts that core passive damage by 30% and gives her more decibels when getting that Frostburn break. Mindscape 6 significantly increases charge/damage, and it will automatically launch during charging, making her even more incredibly powerful. As stated earlier, my personal recommendation though is to get her W engine first, followed by Mindscape 1, and then Mindscape 2. In review, Hoshimi Miyabi is the best character in Zenless Zone Zero. She has very fluid gameplay and is exceptionally fun to play, all while still being fairly easy to build. Just make sure you're filling up those Fallen Frost points in order to hit the level 3 charge of Shimotsuki Stance for maximum damage. As long as you have a fellow Section 6 member or support character on your team, this damage gets even higher. Her signature W engine is probably the most valuable in the game, and you should absolutely pull for it if you have the chance. No matter what, run that 4-piece Branch and Blade song when it finally does release in 1.4, and use a Woodpecker Electro or Polar Metal 2-piece. Miyabi also features the typical trifecta build for any DPS, but focus on crit rate, then crit damage, and attack percent in that order. And that's everything you need to know about the best way to build Hoshimi Miyabi in Zenless Zone Zero. Let me know in the comments what you think about Miyabi and if you're going to pull for her, and I look forward to discussing the character with you all. Make sure to like the video if it helped in any way, and subscribe for plenty more Zenless Zone Zero content, including early access Harumasa guides coming up very soon. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and may Miyabi wanters be Miyabi havers. Bye for now.